Hey, this is CJ. I'm in Shreveport, Louisiana. I'm about to check my mail. I think this is the V, the Pursuit of Diana book that I ordered. Which I uh, had the other two delivered this morning, and then this was delivered this evening by UPS. Yeah, and these are not. This is the reason why we're collecting these is because it's not a particularly celebrated franchise, except for by its cult people. I may be the only cult member in the cult following of this franchise uh, that is still around because that 2009 2010 television uh, fiasco nearly killed it. But let's see. Um, I'm going to put this on pause. I'll come back with the package open and we'll see what's up. It is indeed a used copy of this book. The curious thing, it's got a little crinkle down there, and a book that I had when I was a little kid. I had this book, and my book crinkled near that same position. I'm left handed, and so I would open it and embrace it and hold it like that. Uh, but there's no way this wouldn't be the same book because that book found its way into the trash. I didn't keep track of stuff like that. We were yeah, it was just we moved around a lot, and maybe I still had it when I was a teenager, and then when I was 17 years old, my parents had split up. That happens, and I don't mention that with any begrudgment or anything like that. But my parents had split up for some years by that time. But I went to stay with my dad. I moved out of my mom's place and went to stay with my dad. And slept on the couch for a couple of years, and then shortly after that, so maybe I didn't take some of this stuff with me, but I had some belongings, and I don't know. It was like then there was a brief stint in the military. Military life was not for me. We came to an agreement, the military and myself, that that it was not going to work out. Uh, it was a peaceful breakup. And then, but I tried. I am a veteran. I wasn't in the military long enough to uh, garner benefits from the Veterans Administration at the time. I could retroactively ask, and I would probably get some, uh, access to the base exchange and stuff. But it was basically just I was um, yeah, I used to think about that. Do I celebrate myself as a veteran or not? And then, at one point, one of my senior family members told me, he's like, well, it doesn't matter. You signed up in good faith. You joined in good faith, and it's like, yeah, I'll accept that. I'll own that. I did. I signed up in good faith. So yeah, and then what happened? Yeah, through all that moving around, I lost a lot of these books. And I don't know if they found their way to the trash or not, but these are like, not very expensive when I bought them. Like I said, I bought this at the 7-Eleven, which is now a Circle K. I don't even know if it's still there anymore. I remember being so excited because I had just discovered this, and this was like something that was action packed, and the effects were cool. Like like you would peel her face off, and there'd be like, you know, uh, uh, reptilian skin underneath it in the TV show. You could tell from the eyes; they're creepy. And then they had some other attributes. They were venomous. They would spew, kind of like a Gila monster would like shoot spray venom, so they could do that. And then they had really really thick skin that on top of their with their clothing on top of their thick skin, they were typically they were resistant to typical um, military rounds, and so you'd have to get like a really really tough rounds. That they addressed that, but then very quickly unaddressed it. And then they used to wear eyewear, and their voices had this weird. Um, it was a cheesy effect for the voice that sort of had like a voice box, electronica kind of quality to it uh, in some of their inflection. So, so that the pitch would be kind of like this, but then it would, as I deepen my voice and I put it in my throat, but then there would be like an electronic effect over on top of that, so that or that there was like a, I guess they were using what could be Autotune, because because Autotune has been around forever before the music, but way before Kanye West and way before Cher. They just used it to correct slight off pitches for uh, theater, but they didn't, for I'm sorry, not theater, for studio performances, slight imperfections. They used it to create a little bit of balance, but they did not. It wasn't like an effect that was heavily featured in music, but this was, so they did that here. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I bet it would be something not dissimilar from that. Maybe a different programming type, but it was, yeah, there was a voice. It was pitchy. If you go back and watch the original, that they made a big deal about that and then when the TV series started, what happened was they dropped that effect. I guess it was like expensive. That was another reason why uh, maybe people started to lose interest. Maybe teen boys that loved the cool effects, like eating and swallowing a guinea pig and stuff like that, uh, or mice and stuff like that. Some of the humor started to get redundant with the Willie character not being able to speak, uh, shades of expression very well. He spoke English well enough, but just to understand, jargon, he would get confused and take it literal, or he would, that kind of stuff. But yeah, but so this little booklet, and I don't think it's very thick. That's what I liked about these too. They were quick reads. They were not like, I would get it and I'd have it read inside of an hour. They weren't very, yeah. 186 pages. I did read this. Now, this does not follow, and it came out just before the TV series. Uh, it was the second book. First, there was the East Coast Crisis, and then this was the second one. So, and then they started with the TV series, which this was the tie-in for it. But so the narratives kind of branch off almost into, today it would be like, okay, it's a multiversal thing, we have that, but yeah, um, it's just different continuities. This book doesn't necessarily, it doesn't, it's not so far-fetched, it's not so far off that it couldn't have a little bit of wiggle room. You could say, if you wanted to, the first 2 or 3 episodes uh, of the V television series, the hour-long series that came after the 2 miniseries, uh, that you could say, you could work this into a plausibility as to as what would happen, because there are some things, like uh, she gets captured, and she gets uncaptured, and when she escapes the mothership, then they have to track her down. So, so you could say that this took place, if you wanted to, you could fit it in between uh, the final battle, the last episode of the final battle, where she escapes the uh, the resistance, and from the time in the first like, it takes place in the TV series, like immediately after, like she escapes in her fighter, and uh, this guy, Mark Singer, who we know as Beastmaster, uh, played Mike Donovan, the character, the leader, the male leader of the resistance, actually, and yeah, so he followed her to Earth and like captured her almost immediately, like within the same, like 5 minutes or so, and then the action takes off like a year or so later, you know, and so that's, you could say, uh, there's room to fit this in there, uh, but it's a stretch, and it's only if you really like, us geeks, we want our continuity. We really do. I talked about that earlier. So I love this. I read it. This was one of the first novels, little books that I read on my own. I'd always, at like school and everything, we'd get our little. Actually, we weren't really doing that at elementary school. We were getting like easy readers, and we were getting let's read uh, books out of the reader that we're going to read as a class together. But this was like, uh, fifth grade for me. Going into sixth grade. And no, I was just say I discovered this before my middle school year. So this was like, yeah, I was a this franchise really created an avid reader out of me for many, many years, and is kind of the reason why I wanted to be a writer. Another reason was, so that was so funny. In third grade, we had to draw like a big picture for art class or something like that, and I remember Pac-Man was, I had Pac-Man Fever. That was my first geek uh, thing. I'm not a gamer, but I had Pac-Man Fever, and I think it was just one of those crazy things. Everybody had it. It's like one of those things that caught on the zeitgeist or whatever, and everybody was wearing all those Pac-Man songs and Pac-Man cartoons and all this kind of stuff. And there again, everything on television. With the family, especially on the weekend and stuff like that, it was the nighttime soaps, Dallas, Falcon Crest, the spinoffs, the Knots Landing, the Colbys Hotel, whatever, all that kind of stuff. But so you could get away with watching some of that, because even though some of the storylines were a little blue, and they the sexual tones were kind of like subtle, so it's like they would, like, you could watch it with your kids and it would kind of go over their heads. But I remember, like, uh, watching Dallas, and like Sue Ellen would get pissed off and uh, slap a character or something like that. What was that little girl's name, like Charlene Tilton, whoever she played. And yeah, so this is so I wrote like a comic panel of the little, because I was just discovering comic books too, uh, like uh, in first and second grade and everything, and going into third grade. And time I was like, so I was like, I had a introduction to comic books. So I was like drawing panels on this big, huge poster paper of Pac-Man, and he's having like marital strife with his wife. And then there's the ghost monsters and the head of the ghost monsters and stuff like that. And it's like this great big thing, uh, uh, scandal and everything. It was very melodramatic. Uh, but so that, and then the soap opera-ness of this show, because that's, like I said, this was a science fiction show, and it was a lot of action early on. It started out, that first thing, it was all about representation of, Nazi occupation. That's what the aliens were. Even the insignia kind of looks like uh, their symbol. And then there was, came the final battle, and that was kind of like, and the action got ramped up, and it got more guerrilla. It was more into the, you know, fighting and this and that, and then a uh, uh, pulling off a hijacking of the mothership to take it back into outer space, and just, to keep it from blowing up, because it was, you were facing uh, threat of nuclear attack and all that kind of good stuff. And, that could annihilate the world, one ship, and there were 50 of these ships. So anyway, and then um, yeah, the ship of a lie, I think is what they called it in the. But anyway, it was, Yeah, so it was very, but then by the time they got to the regular weekly series, it had changed to, and it had started to in the final battle, but there was some soap opera aspects, some love triangles or some broken hearts, or there was a love triangle with Robin, and then her star child daughter, her skin peeled, and all of a sudden she was a, a grown woman, and she was starting to mature, apparently emotionally, because this child's maybe like 4 years old, but she's in the body of a grown ass woman having an affair with her mother's boyfriend or whatever. It's so weird. There's like about all that kind of stuff going on. So all the soap opera stuff going on, and the science fiction effects going on. Uh, but they went more with the melodrama, uh, and she was more of a foil versus a formidable evil. And then, yeah, so they, it started to shift away, and that's one of the reasons why I think people lost interest, because it wasn't the same stories that were being told, or they weren't being told in the same tones. Um, but then you'd have some episodes. It was like, okay, you're in a small town, and it's ravaged to bits, because apparently every place except for a few sanctuary cities, every other place was war torn, except in areas of the earth that the visitors could not get to due to red dust biocontagion that was created. But that's something else altogether. Anyway, I've talked enough about this. I love this. I've got some things to read. That should keep me busy. And I'll tell you, it took me. I'm yeah, I feel really passionate about this. I remember I saved my money because I didn't have that much money, and I would get my allowance, and I think it was like $5, and so it was a $5 per week when we could get the allowance, and this was a $2.95 or something like that, 2.15, 2.95 or something like that. 2.95 printed right there on the left. So I really had to be careful with my money, and so I had to choose: did I want that icy? Did I want my money to stretch, or did I want to buy this and everything? And my dad was the one that was like, I was not very careful with money, so my dad was the one that started to lean on me and start to impress upon me about money. And it's like, I can't blame him for being upset or offended when I was wasteful with money, uh, or maybe didn't understand where it came from, or or that there was uh, other things that money could be spent on, and so to be careful with my budget and stuff like that. So I'm kind of grateful that it's around this time. I didn't always appreciate it. I thought my dad was sometimes being a little hard on me about that in the way that he expressed that. But yeah, it's good to express upon children, uh, even today, that even if you don't have a lot of money, you just don't take them and throw money at them and let them get whatever. It's okay for them to understand. Sometimes you have to budget. I don't think any of us that I know of are the Rockefellers. Everybody I know lives on a budget, whether it's a small budget like mine, or whether it's a bigger budget. But that means that it means that you've got bigger expenses, and less assistance. uh, so, okay, uh, yeah. Find something that you're passionate about. It, love it, read it. I love you guys. Okay, bye.